listening to Robert Schumann's fantasy pieces by pianist Sanda Schultman and cellist Harry Clark.
Schumann is kind of a romantic. I mean, he's right smack in the romantic middle of the 19th century. But interestingly enough, even though he's accepted readily, and he's one of the beloved composers, in his day, he had a hard time. His music had a hard time finding acceptance.
Cellist and also writer, Clark has always been interested in the stories behind the creation of the music of the great composers.
When you're in music school, basically practicing your instrument all the time, you take music history courses, and they don't really go into too much. And we do know that Schumann threw himself into the River Rhine. That's the story, and then went into the asylum, never to come out again. I've always been curious as to why. I mean, what was the reason?
Clark later learned that Schumann suffered from what we now call bipolar disorder.
He had several deaths in his family, including his mother and I think brother, so that was a tough. I mean, that would have been tough on anyone, but it kind of triggered the first emotional outburst. And he had 3 or 4 until the last one, where he really then was suicidal and taken to the asylum. What was interesting about Schumann, and I think it has to do with his bipolar, both the manic phases and then the depressive phases. In his manic phases, he would compose incessantly. Unlike many composers who sort of compose a symphony here and then a piece of chamber music there and then some songs there, he would get fixated on a certain form. So he has the year of his song, and in that year, the first year of his marriage, he composed over 100 songs. Then he had a year of chamber music where he just composed nothing but chamber music.
Schumann is not the only well-known composer who battled mental illness.
Going back to Handel, Beethoven certainly, Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff was famous because he got into quite a severe depression after his first piano concerto, and he actually sought some psychoanalytic help and actually got cured, which was a great success story. Tchaikovsky suffered from Great Depression. Mahler as well. I was very curious as to what would have been the diagnosis in that day, what would have been his treatment, how if Robert Schumann were alive today, how would he be treated in 2006 as opposed to 1856? And then looking 50 years ahead, what's on the horizon in terms of treatment for what now Schumann, we would call him bipolar.
That is the subject of the 3rd annual Arizona Cultural Forum, co-directed by Harry Clark and James Reel. Again, Harry Clark.
There's performances, so we have plays, we have music, we have discussions. We're also going to have scientists, physicians, doctors, musicologists, performing musicians, actors. We're trying to tie in many disciplines. That's one of the joys of putting the forum together, is to try and bridge many different arts disciplines and humanities as well.
One of the main reasons for the forum is to bring more awareness to mental illness.
One of our exciting offerings is to have Margot Kidder come as part of the forum, who suffered from mental illness and was very public, and she talks about the ways that she's dealt with it. I think this is quite wonderful, because one thing is to shine light on mental illness, because I think it's like the last stigma, and I think that the more we can talk about it and show that it's nothing to be ashamed about, and show how great people have suffered from this and overcome it and worked to deal with it. It's not a matter of acceptance, but a matter of people not having to be ashamed about it.
For KUAT, I'm Su-Yan Lee.